Have you ever wondered why a woman can look whole on the outside yet feel shattered within? She may wear the smile of survival, the calm mask of composure, even the radiant glow of someone who has moved on. But underneath, in the silent chambers of her inner world, shame coils like a serpent around her worth. She appears healed, but deep down, she still feels unworthy. This is the paradox. She survived the wound, but the wound still whispers through her. Shame is not the same for men and women. For many men, the deepest terror is rejection, the primal cut to their ego, the fear of not being chosen, of standing exposed and inadequate. For women, the wound sinks into a different layer: abandonment. The fear that love will leave, that presence will dissolve, that her very essence is unworthy of devotion. This is why even when she looks strong, shame can still rule her from within. She does not fear rejection as much as she fears being left behind once she has been accepted. And yet shame and self-worth are two sides of the same mirror. The archetype that waits behind this mirror is the queen. Not the queen who demands to be obeyed, but the queen who holds her throne in silence. Her power does not shout. It does not beg. It does not explain. The queen's sovereignty is born in the hush, in the unshaken presence that does not need to be justified. Silence in her hands is not emptiness. Silence is the scepter she wields. Picture this: he mocks her in jest, expecting her to laugh. The crowd watches for her reaction. Once she would have forced a smile, offering him her compliance in exchange for belonging. But now she does not smile. She lets his words fall into the space between them like dull stones. Her stillness cuts sharper than any retort. Her silence declares, "I will not validate your cruelty. My worth does not bend to your attempt at amusement." The air grows heavy. He feels the echo of his own smallness reflected back. Her absence of reaction becomes the mirror where he confronts his own shadow. This is the moment shame begins to lose its grip. When she does not contort herself to ease another's discomfort, she learns the throne of stillness. Silence becomes both shield and crown. Do you see what this means for you? That the shame you carry, the fear that you are not enough, not worthy, not lovable, is not the truth. It is the shadow's voice. And every time you remain silent when you once would have begged, every time you hold your gaze when you once would have looked away, you reclaim a piece of the queen within. Carl Jung wrote that what we resist persists, and what we deny within ourselves will return as fate. Shame denied becomes compulsive people-pleasing, endless pursuit of approval, desperate attempts to fix what was never broken. But shame embraced, held, named, brought into the light, transforms into dignity. The very wound that told her she was unworthy is the fire that forges her sovereignty. In myth, the queen is not crowned because she is flawless. She is crowned because she has faced the inner exile and chosen to sit upon her throne anyway. Tonight, sit in silence, not scrolling, not distracting, not speaking, just silence. Feel its weight. Notice how much power lives in it. Notice how much dignity arises when you no longer rush to fill the void with justification or apology. The queen archetype is born when a woman allows silence to crown her instead of shame to chain her. And so she may still look healed but feel unworthy. Yet in the quiet, she can learn that worth is not given, it is remembered. Worth was never lost. It was only hidden beneath the veil of shame. Every moment you sit in silence and refuse to bow to the old wound, you polish the hidden crown. And one day the world will see what you already begin to feel. She was not broken. She was becoming. Shame has a cunning way of disguising itself. It whispers not only in failures, but even in moments of success. A woman may rise in her career, be admired in her circle, perhaps even loved by a man who claims he sees her. And yet in the quiet before sleep, the serpent hisses, "You do not deserve this. They will see through you. You are not enough." This is the secret wound, not visible to the world, but woven into the private chambers of her psyche. For men, the wound takes on a different shape. His hunger is for validation, the reassurance that his actions matter, that he is significant. His shadow is the fear of being irrelevant. For the feminine, however, the shadow is abandonment. Even when loved, she may feel the threat of love's departure. Even when chosen, she braces for the moment she will be left. These twin wounds, his fear of insignificance and her fear of abandonment, collide in a dance that often breeds misunderstanding, conflict, and the deepening of shame. The queen archetype rises here not as a fantasy, but as a necessity. She embodies the paradox: to be alone yet not lonely, to be silent yet not silenced, to be still yet unshakable. The queen's throne is carved not from marble or gold, but from self-worth. When shame says, "You are not enough," the queen answers with her presence alone. No frantic defense, no desperate plea. Her silence is the crown. Imagine the scene. He grows impatient when she does not rush to reassure him. He tests her boundaries, trying to provoke a reaction. Perhaps he raises his voice, perhaps he withdraws in cold detachment. Once this would have shattered her. Once she would have run after him, offering apology after apology for a sin she never committed. But now she sits. She allows the silence to stretch. She lets his storm pass around her. The throne beneath her is steady. Her worth is not a bargain to be negotiated. Her absence of fear unsettles him more than any argument could. And yet the danger is subtle. For many women, this silence is not born from sovereignty but from suppression. She may withhold words out of fear, biting back her truth. This is not the queen's silence. That is the silence of captivity. The queen's silence, by contrast, is chosen. It is active. It carries weight because it comes not from weakness, but from the dignity of knowing she does not need to defend what is already whole. This is where shadow work enters. Jung taught that the shadow, once integrated, becomes a source of power rather than poison. To deny shame is to let it govern from the dark. To face shame is to step into sovereignty. When a woman looks at the memory of abandonment and refuses to let it define her essence, she begins the work of individuation. She separates her worth from the wounds of her past. And what about you? How often do you fill silence with apology? How often do you over-explain, hoping to soften someone's judgment? How often do you offer pieces of yourself just to be tolerated, when in truth you are meant to be treasured? Every time you abandon yourself to prevent someone else from abandoning you, shame deepens its throne in your psyche. The queen's work is to reverse this pattern, to sit with the discomfort of silence and let worth rise from within. Take this challenge. When someone misunderstands you, do not rush to explain. Sit in the silence. Hold your ground. Feel the pulse of discomfort in your body and know that it is the echo of old wounds, not the truth of who you are. The throne is waiting for you in that silence. Each time you sit upon it, your crown grows brighter, your shame weaker. And in that silence, something unexpected happens. He feels it too. He senses the difference between absence and sovereignty. Absence feels like rejection. Sovereignty feels like power. It draws him, unsettles him, awakens him. For the man who has lived in the hunger of significance, her sovereign silence forces him to face his own shadow. She does not reject him. She simply refuses to let his validation define her. And that refusal is the very thing that makes him realize her worth. Shame told her she was unworthy. Silence teaches her she was never broken. What changes is not the world's gaze, but her own. She begins to see herself not as abandoned, but as enthroned, not as unworthy, but as sovereign. There is a hidden cruelty in shame. It convinces her that love must be earned, that every smile must be justified, that every presence she holds in someone's life is conditional. This is why she overgives, why she stays too long, why she bends until she breaks. Shame weaves itself into her nervous system, so that even in stillness, her body carries the memory of rejection like an old scar. But there is a deeper truth that waits beneath the wound. In myth, every queen is tested, not by her beauty, not by her charm, but by her ability to hold the throne when storms rage. The queen's throne is never comfortable. It is carved from discipline, from boundaries, from the fire of refusal. A throne that cannot be shaken by the chaos of others. For the queen, worth is not in being pleasing, worth is in being unmovable. Now picture this, she is at dinner. A man across the table makes a subtle dig, cloaked in humor meant to sting without consequence. Around her, laughter erupts. All eyes flicker to her, waiting for the cue. Will she laugh with them? Will she ease their discomfort? Once she would have. Once she would have laughed, swallowing the wound to keep belonging. But tonight she does not laugh. She does not offer her complicity. She lifts her glass, eyes steady, silence cutting through the noise like a blade. The laughter falters. The air shifts. The man feels suddenly exposed. Her silence has crowned her without a word. This is the difference between reaction and sovereignty. Reaction is shackled to shame. It explains, it justifies, it pleads. Sovereignty breathes in silence. It does not need to win. It does not need to defend. It simply is. And because it simply is, it commands. For men, this silence is deeply unsettling. His archetypal wound wise. Pers that he is insignificant unless validated. When she refuses to laugh, when she does not reassure, when she does not explain, he feels his own shadow rise. He must face himself in the mirror of her stillness. This is why the queen's silence is magnetic. It awakens in him both fear and fascination. He is confronted with his own hunger for control. He is forced to realize that her worth is not his to define. And for her, the silence becomes liberation. Because every time she refuses to betray herself for acceptance, she is choosing dignity over fear. Every withheld laugh, every pause instead of apology, every silence held in the face of provocation, each one becomes a stone in the foundation of her throne. She is teaching herself that she can survive without bending, that she can belong without performing, that she can love without abandoning her own soul. But the shadow will fight back. There will be nights she feels guilty for not pleasing. There will be moments when silence feels like loss, when she mistakes sovereignty for coldness. This is the trick of shame. It will whisper, "You are too much. You are too cold. You are unlovable." And yet these whispers are not truth. They are the echo of an old wound, a phantom voice of abandonment replaying itself. Jung would call this the confrontation with the shadow, the integration of what was once denied. If she denies her shame, it rules her. If she meets it with dignity, it becomes her crown. This is individuation, to take the wound into the light and transform it into strength. Ask yourself, where do you still perform to be loved? Where do you still betray your own silence to soothe another's insecurity? Where do you still laugh at what wounds you just to belong? Each of these moments is a test of sovereignty, and each test is an invitation to choose differently. Here is your practice. The next time you feel the pull to explain yourself, stop. Feel the urge, hold it, and instead of speaking, breathe. Allow the silence to carry your worth. Do not rush to fill the air. Do not hand over your dignity. Just sit. It will feel uncomfortable at first, as if the ground beneath you is shaking. But that is the throne being built. And in this throne of silence, you will find what shame always tried to hide. That worth is not proven. It is remembered. Silence is often mistaken for weakness. People fear it, try to break it, rush to fill it with noise. But for the woman who has walked through shame, silence becomes her most dangerous form of power. It is not the silence of surrender. It is the silence of command. Like the queen in ancient myth, she does not need to declare her worth. The throne itself speaks for her. This is the paradox men encounter. His archetypal wound is the fear of insignificance. He seeks validation in her laughter, in her reaction, in her need for him. When she does not give it, when she refuses to play the role of mirror to his ego, he feels himself shrinking. He grows restless, even desperate, not because she rejected him, but because she did not bend to him. The absence of her response is more powerful than 1,000 arguments, for it forces him to face the truth. Her worth does not orbit around his approval. But shame still lingers in her blood like an echo. It tells her she is cruel for holding silence. It accuses her of arrogance, of being unlovable, of pushing love away. This is the oldest trick of the shadow, to whisper that sovereignty is selfish. And so, many women break their own thrones by rushing back into apology. They laugh when they do not want to laugh. They explain when silence would have spoken louder. They betray their inner queen to keep fragile peace. And afterward, they feel hollow, because they know they abandoned themselves again. The queen archetype demands something different. She demands that a woman hold the discomfort of being misunderstood, that she allow others to squirm in the space her silence creates, that she choose dignity over instant belonging. This is the rite of passage, to sit on the throne of stillness without rushing to soften it. The silence is not emptiness. It is a crown. Picture this scene. He storms out after she refuses to beg. The door slams. The echo rings through the room. Once she would have run after him, heart pounding with terror at the thought of being left. But now she stays seated. She lets the silence wash over her like an ocean tide. Her body trembles with the memory of abandonment, but she breathes through it. The throne beneath her steadies her bones. Hours later, he returns. But even if he did not, she knows something irreversible has shifted. For the first time, she did not abandon herself to avoid abandonment. This is the queen's initiation, to realize that self-worth is not dependent on another's presence or absence. That dignity is not measured by how well she pleases, but by how deeply she remains true. When she sits in silence, she feels the serpent of shame. Loosen its grip. The whispers still come, but they no longer define her. She is no longer the girl waiting to be chosen. She is the queen who chooses. And what about you? How often do you still betray your silence? How often do you rush to men to soothe, to explain? How many times have you abandoned yourself so that another would not abandon you? Each of those moments is a debt to shame, but debts can be forgiven the moment you stop paying them. Each time you hold silence, you cancel one more contract with unworthiness. Jung once wrote that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Shame, unexamined, becomes destiny. It shapes relationships, keeps you trapped in cycles of pleasing, binds you to those who mistake compliance for love. But shame-faced, shame held in the throne of silence becomes a key. It unlocks dignity. It transforms abandonment into sovereignty. Here is your challenge. In the coming days, practice sacred stillness. When conflict arises, when insecurity tempts you to explain, when fear pushes you to chase, pause. Sit with the discomfort. Let silence be your response. Not as a weapon, not as withdrawal, but as a crown. Hold your throne. Breathe. The first few moments may feel unbearable, but beyond the fear is freedom. In the stillness, you will begin to hear something beneath shame's hiss. A quieter voice, a deeper truth, that you were never unworthy, that you were never abandoned by your own essence, that beneath the mask of shame, you have always been crowned. Shame is a ghost that clings to memory, replaying old betrayals until they feel eternal. It convinces her that she is still the abandoned child, still the unworthy lover, still the woman overlooked. Even in moments of triumph, shame whispers, "This will not last. You will be left again." But the truth is this: shame has no power except the power she grants it. It cannot crown her. It can only haunt her until she learns to sit upon her throne and face it without flinching. The throne itself is not external. It is an inner seat of dignity. Imagine it, a great chair carved from stone set in the center of her being. When she sits upon it, she cannot be moved by someone else's storm. The throne is not cold. It is not lonely. It is sacred. It is the place where she remembers who she is. Every queen in myth must claim it, and every woman in truth must do the same. Men often misread this throne. His fear of insignificance tells him that her silence is rejection, her stillness a withdrawal of love. But in reality, her throne is not a wall against him. It is a center within her. It is the place from which she can love freely, without clinging, without pleasing, without bargaining. Until she learns to sit upon it, her love will always be tainted with fear. When she reclaims her throne, her love becomes sovereign and paradoxically more irresistible. Imagine a scene. He asks if she needs him. His voice carries that hidden plea, the ancient wound of insignificance. Once she would have rushed to reassure, flooding him with words meant to soothe. But this time she simply places her hand on her chest. She looks at him with calm eyes, rooted in silence. She does not rush to fill the space. She lets the question breathe. He shifts, uneasy at first because he expected a torrent of reassurance. Instead, he meets a woman who does not beg, does not plead. A woman who loves but does not cling. In that moment, he feels both unnerved and awakened. This is the paradox of attraction. What he fears most, her sovereignty, is what draws him deepest. Men do not long for a woman who abandons herself to please them. They may exploit it, but they do not revere it. What captivates them, what awakens their soul, is the woman who sits firmly upon her throne. The one who loves without losing herself. The one who remains whole even if left. And yet the greatest victory is not in his response, but in hers. Because shame loses its grip when she realizes she no longer needs to be chosen in order to feel worthy. Whether he stays or goes, she remains on the throne. Whether she is seen or ignored, she knows her crown is not given by him, nor taken by him. Her worth is not fragile, it is sovereign. Now ask yourself, where do you still hand away your throne? Where do you let another's opinion decide your worth? Where do you chase validation, hoping it will silence the serpent of shame? The throne demands honesty. It asks you to admit how often you betray yourself for belonging. And then, it asks you to stop. Here is your final practice. Tonight, close your eyes and imagine that throne inside you. See its stone arms, its carved back, its unshakable presence. Sit upon it, feel its weight, breathe into it. Imagine wearing the crown that shame once hid from you. With each breath, feel the serpent loosen, feel the whispers fade. Repeat silently, I do not chase, I do not beg, I choose. This is the culminati. On of individuation, the birth of sovereignty. To detach from external validation, to see that worth is not earned but remembered, to know that no abandonment can exile you from yourself. The queen does not need to shout her power. She does not need to explain her dignity. She simply sits upon her throne, and in that stillness, all the world must bow. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.